I'm Elle Embers, and this is Cosmic Curiosities.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Cosmic Curiosities. I hope that everyone's been enjoying this season so far, and if you did miss last week's episode, episode 10, Past, Present, and Frozen Yogurt, featuring Daniel the Past Life Regressionist, you may want to take a moment and listen back to that episode prior to this one, as today's guest is mentioned a few times throughout Daniel's episode. So, it felt only natural that today's episode is the official introduction of the amazing Leanne Rose. In today's episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Leanne. However, you may know her better as the Trance Channel for the collective consciousness, known as the Galayla Collective. I know, right? Say Galayla Collective 3 times really fast. Galayla Collective, Galayla Collective. Leanne and the Galayla Collective have assisted many people in learning how to connect with themselves and assisted them in reclaiming their power as co-creators of their reality by stepping into the idea that we are the universe experiencing itself through human form and gaining insight into all of the magic that comes along with that. Now, although the Galayla Collective are wonderful interview guests, today I really wanted to focus more on the girl behind the collective and learn more about that inner connection from the girl herself, Leanne Rose. So, are you ready to journey inwards? Leanne, thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, lovely. Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, I wanted to start off by doing a little bit of an icebreaker because I think I did try this with Daniel and I had so much fun with it. So I thought, why not do it again? But what is your favorite animal, movie, and color?
Oh, okay. So, my favorite animal, can I give you 2?
Yeah.
I have to be 1, dog, because they're just amazing. Like, they're just amazing. And dolphins, because they're pretty cool as well. My favorite movie, I don't actually watch much telly. So, I don't really know what my favourite movie would be. But if I'm going from childhood, it would have to be 10 Things I Hate About You. Love that film.
Oh, I love that. I have the softest spot for Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I don't know who that is. Is that the main fella in it?
He's, oh my gosh, his name escapes me right now. He's, the kid that tries to get with Bianca.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
no, he
guy.
Is cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's lovely, isn't he?
He is. I love him so much. My husband calls him my boyfriend. He's like, oh, there's this movie that your boyfriend's in it. I was like, oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, he's got a good vibe. He's got a cute vibe to him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that. I would have to say that is one of my favourite films. And my favourite colour is blue. I don't know why. I just love it.
Oh, I like blue too. What do you like, a darker blue or like a tealy blue or a light blue?
Oh, it depends what mood I'm in. I'm either a royal blue girl or a light blue girl. Depends what mood I'm in. If I'm in more of a feisty mood, then it's your royal blues. If I'm in more of a mellow, chilled out mood, then it's a nice light blue. Nice baby blue.
Oh, nice.
It's good questions though. I like them. They're cute.
Yeah, I think it's good to... I mean, who goes around asking other adults these days, like, what's your favorite color?
And that's so true. That is so true. And it taps into a different element of being, doesn't it? When you're suddenly talking about colour and your favourite animal, and it's quite childlike. I like that. It's really cute.
I love it. So do you want to start by introducing yourself and telling everyone a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, definitely. So my name's Leanne, obviously. I'm a trance channel for a collective consciousness called the Galayla Collective. In another life, I was a mental health nurse, a therapist, yoga teacher, meditation teacher, and a Reiki practitioner, kind of energy healer. But now the majority of my work is based around, obviously, Trance Channeling with the Galayla Collective. The main thing that we do is really helping people step into what I call soul abundance, like really helping them to recognize the power that each and every one of us yields as a human being, and really starting to tap into that. I mean, we all know that we've all heard that we're the creators of our reality, but my work and the work with the Galayla Collective really helps people to embody that truth and start putting it into practice.
Awesome. I've not physically seen you channel, but I have heard you channel, and it is such a just mind-blowing experience. I love it. I'm here for it.
Oh, thank you.
But today I really wanted to kind of dive into a little bit more about you and the person behind the channel, behind the Galayla Collective, because I know that they get a lot of praise, they get a lot of rap, and, you know, it's well deserved.
They do.
But, I mean, like I say to our friend Daniel, Leanne has a lot of wisdom that's just Leanne. So
thanks, babe. I appreciate the recognition. Yeah, it's quite funny sometimes that a lot of people do tend to place a lot of emphasis on the Galayla Collective, and it's actually a good friend of mine that was like, yeah, you need to step up a little bit. Like, you've got a lot of stuff to bring to the table too, and actually, you know, they kind of need your body to bridge in and talk to people. So you got to give yourself some credit as well. So it's nice to be kind of honoured as me as Leanne, and not just me as the Trance Channel.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of us who don't know what a trance channel is, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. So, and I was just saying to you before, wasn't I, that they actually gave me a little bit of nugget of wisdom that I didn't know about trance channeling. So what trance channeling actually is putting yourself into an altered state of consciousness so that you can basically allow a higher vibrational being or energy of any kind to enter your system and to communicate directly with other people through you, usually using your mouth as a mouthpiece, as a talking tool. But what they've actually shown me is that what we are actually doing when we put ourselves into an altered state of consciousness, which I can do in almost a matter of seconds at the minute, which is pretty amazing. I couldn't do that at one point. So it's getting much better, which shows you the power that we are tapping into now as humans in general. We're on a whole new grid. And what we're actually doing is tapping into multiple dimensions, opening ourselves up into different dimensions to allow different elements of what the Galayla Collective call the multidimensional self to flow through. So it's basically allowing far more energy, that is other elements of source energy, to flow through my system and to communicate with you directly.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you. It is pretty amazing. I mean, obviously there's loads of trance channels in the world, so I was always in awe of them. But obviously before I could trance channel, it was something I always wanted to do, but never believed possible. And one day it just happened, and I was like, oh my God.
Oh, that's just biggest dreams coming true. If that's what you're wanting to do and you want nothing more, and then it just happens, obviously it's happening for a reason.
Exactly. And it's so funny. It was almost, I mean, I kind of do have this element of like our souls do have plans for us, and our biggest dreams and biggest goals and biggest wishes, I really do believe that they are possible, and it's just our souls showing us and pointing us in the direction of what the plan is, if you like. But ultimately you get to decide whether or not that comes to fruition, but you have to follow your intuitive nudges. And it took me a couple of years to really drop into being able to trance channel. But I wasn't actually going after the trance channeling goal. I was just going after trying to, I suppose, quote unquote, be more spiritual. Trying to open myself up to more spiritual magic, basically. And then it kind of just dropped in.
Wow, yeah. So just kind of working on your intuitive connection and just kind of stumbled in.
Yes, definitely.
Wow, that's so interesting. I feel like so many practitioners say everybody has this ability, everybody has multiple spiritual abilities, which, you know, I back 100%. Everybody has abilities they're not aware of.
Yeah.
But doing something like trance channeling, obviously that must have a effect on you physically, on you mentally, if you are putting yourself in that altered state of consciousness.
Yes.
So how does it affect you?
I mean, there's plenty of beneficial effects. We'll start with the non-beneficial, because I think that's what most people are kind of curious about, is obviously to be able to channel such high vibrational energy. It takes an awful lot of my physical energy. And so I tend to only really be able to channel when I'm feeling at my best physically. I won't open myself up to channel when I'm not feeling very well. It does drain my energy. It does make me feel more tired than normal. So I prefer to channel in the morning when I've got more energy than I do in the evening. It does kind of make me a little bit more, I have to really look after my physical system, and not just my physical system, but my whole entire energy system. I have to be very, very strict with my energy management. I have to really look after myself in a way that I couldn't have gotten away with before I was trance channeling. Like I didn't used to be very good at looking after myself. So I think it's almost why it happened. It was like, no, now you have to look after yourself. So that's a big thing. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to just be able to maintain a clear channel and a strong channel. So it takes a lot of energy, not just in the actual doing of the channeling. That in and of itself does take a lot of energy. And I know you said that you'd never physically see me channel, but when I'm actually channeling, you can see the energy being held in my body. Like my hands shake, my head twitches, my eyes twitch. Sometimes the nose and the mouth are twitching. Like I'm constantly moving. It's not attractive. It's really not. It's really not attractive. But you know, it just has to be that way in order for me to hold the energy. So it is draining. But the benefits of it is that with me being able to basically open myself up to these higher vibrational energies, it automatically changes everything about my physical reality, because I am streaming such high energy. And if you speak to a lot of trance channels on the old grid are kind of like, they will keep themselves quite separate from the beings that they channel. I don't do that. I allow them to they're always kind of halfway attached to me in some way, shape or form. And so I'm constantly getting insights about the world. I'm constantly getting insights about the universe. And I'm much more able to step into different elements and different multi-dimensions so much more easily than if I was to shut that channel off and completely like disregard it. And so that means that life becomes so much more interesting because you see things from a whole new angle.
Yeah.
It can make it a little bit difficult as well, because it means that you relate to people a little bit differently as well. So that's been one thing that I really struggled with, is that I used to be very, very, very level-headed and very, very grounded and very much more able to put things into words in a way that was easily understandable for other people. And I'm finding that the more I'm opening my energy up to the Galayla Collective and obviously to higher energies as well, it's becoming harder and harder for me to pull that information down in a way that's easy to understand for a lot of people. So that's a challenge I've been dealing with recently. Daniel's always calling me out. He's like, it's a very hoity-toity way of saying it, or that's a very fancy, and he's like, or he goes to me, that's very love and light, and I'm like, I've got no other way of saying it, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I could see Daniel saying that. That's Daniel. Oh, but I mean, I feel like that would be so much more satisfying for you to have that integration rather than to separate yourself and lock yourself off from them at particular times. Like, I'm sure, don't get me wrong, there'd be moments where you're like, hey, can I just have a moment of peace by myself, please? But having that integration, I don't know, I feel like there's a bit of comfort there. And like, I don't want to say not feeling alone, because, you know, we're never alone. But
yeah,
there's just that little bit of comfort, satisfaction. Is that the case?
Yes, 100%. Like before my spiritual awakening, and even during it, to be fair. And when I talk about spiritual awakenings, I'm very precious about that word. I don't really like using it because it's kind of become quite sticky now. But I kind of mean when you first start to wake up to the truth of who you are, kind of when you first get that initial catalyst of like, oh my god, okay, there is so much more to life than just the normal humdrum, basic 3D stuff. But the main thing I was really, really struggling with was feeling so alone all of the time. It was such a huge struggle for me. And even as I was like stepping into the multidimensional self more, learning about angels, learning about guides, learning that we're not alone, I was still very attached to my human, who, and our human is, she's fundamentally, and I say she because mine is a she, they're fundamentally hardwired to believe that we are separate. She's fundamentally hardwired to experience loneliness. And so, it was that typical thing of I'd be in a room full of people and I would feel so alone because I just felt really disconnected. And I think you totally hit the nail on the head, is that everything I was searching for in spirituality, everything I was searching for in kind of opening up to that magic was knowing that I'm not alone. I really wanted to feel that and embody that truth. And now being connected to a higher vibrational element and being connected directly to source as well, you're never alone. And it's not just the mental cognitive awareness of it, it's the embodied sense of it. And so it really does make you feel kind of invincible, because it doesn't matter what happens in the external world. I know that I am connected to something. And I know that each and every single one of us, not just me, every single being is connected to this greater whole. And so no matter what happens, I know that I'm going to be okay. Like, why would you want to cut yourself off from that? Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. There are times when my human will come in, and because that's all part of the process. And if you know much about my work, you'll know that, I'm not about trying to get rid of the human. So there are times when I do feel the separation, but I feel it so much differently now because I am allowing myself to connect to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And that's so beautiful. I love that explanation that you gave then too, about not just the knowing, but it's really that, like, you feel it, it inside of you. You have that sense of, yes, this is undeniably the way that it is.
Yeah.
I love that.
I do believe that's what we're all looking for as well. I do really believe that, because there's honestly, I know people might find it hard to believe, but there's honestly not much that I desire at all now, because I found exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And it's almost like the fine tuning of every single time I get a little bit out of balance with it, I feel a little bit less connected. The moment I reconnect, I have everything that I could possibly need. And I think this is the thing that people need to recognize, is that when you find that internally, it shows up in the external world. But most of us are looking in the external world for what it is that we're actually seeking. What you're actually seeking is an internal frequency. It's an internal connection. And that connection is what brings the external stuff. But most people are looking in the opposite direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Something that just came into my head then was the comparison to somebody wanting a promotion. Like they're like, I really want this promotion. I really want this job. This is what I need. I need this. But it's not actually the job that they need or the job that they want. It's that security. It's that financial stability. It's the feelings that come with getting that promotion, not the promotion itself. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Oh, 100%. And this is where so many people whip themselves up with manifestation, is that they go looking outside of themselves for these things. But what you're actually doing, so you need to understand that we live in a universe that is operating completely on vibration. It's operating completely on energy, frequency. That's the language that it speaks. And so when you're looking outside of yourself for these things, what you're actually operating on is a vibration of lack, a vibration of scarcity, a vibration of fear, because you're looking outside of yourself for something that it's never going to bring you the internal satisfaction that you need, because it exists outside of you. And so you are perpetuating this vibration of fear and scarcity and lack. And so you probably won't get the promotion anyway, but even if you do get the promotion, you're still going to be, your external world is still going to be reflecting back to you that vibration of lack, fear and scarcity. And so it will show up in some other way. And so you will continue to feel unsatisfied and not okay. But the moment that you find that internal frequency of, like you said, it's not the job you're after, it's that feeling of like security, of financial safety, of feeling that you are provided for, feeling abundant. When you find that internal frequency and you don't need that external validation of that, when you're able to hold that frequency, that's when your external world begins to shift to meet that vibration. So yeah, it's an inside job, but most people are looking outside, and that's where most people are going wrong with manifestation.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know where that came from. Like, it was just like this popped into your head, say this, and I was like, okay. But I'm glad,
channeled wisdom, babe.
Yeah. I'm glad that, that made sense, and we rolled with it, because, yeah, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but gonna try it anyway.
Just shows you. You got to go with your intuition. Go with the gut.
Totally. So, I mean, you became a channel, and it was something you worked towards to really, well, not work towards that, but just work towards opening yourself up more spiritually and to feel more connected. But what was it about your experience that made you decide you wanted to provide a service for others or work in the spiritual industry?
So I've always known that my purpose was to serve. I've always known that my purpose was to help others. I had a really tricky childhood. I grew up in foster care. My mum she had a mental health condition and she passed away quite young. And so there was always this huge drive in me I really wanted to help other people. I really saw how much my mum suffered and I wanted to help others. And so I became a mental health nurse. And for a little while, I thought that was my calling. But then after a long time in that setting, I began to realise how broken the mental health system is and how we don't look at people as a whole. And obviously, I was learning so much about who we are in terms of our souls, who we are in terms of elements of source energy. And then here I am as this mental health nurse, just felt so unaligned with everything that I was. Like I was seeing these gorgeous people coming in that were really suffering with depression because they had no purpose and they had no connection to an element higher than themselves. And I couldn't say that to them. I just had to give them really boring, basic information that was quote unquote evidence-based, but it just felt so wrong and it was so unaligned with who I am as a soul. And so I knew I wanted to do something more spiritually based. So I went and did my Reiki training. But even that just wasn't enough for me. It didn't feel like enough. I knew that there was something bigger. So I did my yoga training, and even that it wasn't enough. It wasn't cutting it for me. It still didn't land into the true magic of what it was that I wanted to do. And then eventually I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to invest in a business coach and I'm just going to see what happens. I had no idea of where I was going or what I wanted to do. I just knew that I needed to not be in my mental health nursing job anymore because it wasn't lighting me up. I didn't feel as though I was actually helping people at a soul level. And that's basically when it all started, the puzzle pieces really, they started to fit together after I just made the jump and just jumped in and was like, well, I'm just going to trust that whatever is supposed to happen will happen. And it did.
I feel like to say you lent into your purpose and you jumped in with faith, you jumped in with trust, and isn't that just manifestation? Like you're trusting in it and feeling it inwards yes. to then create outwards. Isn't that how it works?
Yeah. And it's just, do you know what, when you really like see it like that as well, and you really see that my entire journey, my entire process is basically what I now teach other people to do. Like that's what 60 manifestation is. It was showing I was bridging this gap from my human self to my spiritual self over that huge, it was a long time for me that I was bridging that gap for. And then it just kind of fell into place of like, this is exactly what you've been doing. You are now at this point where you're watching yourself creating your reality. Let's help other people step into this magic. It was almost like a non-brainer. It just made sense. It was like every time you make that leap of faith, the next pillar appears and to catch you kind of thing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, your human protests so much along the way because your human is like, we need to have the answers, we need the plan. And you've got to really, really open yourself up to trusting that there's a higher power within you that knows the direction that you're moving in. And you've just got to keep that faith that you are connected to that and that everything that you are doing is for a purpose.
Absolutely. I guess, too, it kind of comes down to overcoming those limiting beliefs as well. Like if you're
yes.
constantly feeling like, oh, this isn't going to work out, or constantly telling yourself, oh, I want this, but it's probably not going to happen.
Yes.
How is that going to change anything if your mind is constantly thinking and doubting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if your internal world creates your external reality and your internal world is full of self-doubt and keeping you small and keeping you unattached from your power, then that's what you are going to create more of, isn't it? Like you really do have to get a handle on those elements and you have to steer your thoughts in the right direction. That was almost the cutting point for me around mental health, like steering away from the mental health work, because a lot of mental health work there's almost this belief in the system that you can't control your thoughts, that you have no mechanism for stopping yourself thinking in certain ways. It's almost like the system perpetuates the fact that we are a victim to our own mind. And actually, in order to step into your power, you need to break that patterning, and you need to recognize, I'm in control of my thoughts. I get to decide what I choose to believe in. I get to decide what I think about myself and what I think about what I think is possible for me. It's only then, when you really start to step into that in a big way, that you begin to actually activate your ability to consciously create your reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think mental health and Western medicine's idea of mental health is just, I really don't feel like they can really know. But yet, like, it's like, oh, they whack a few chemistry words together and, you know, these cells react to these cells. And you're like, but it doesn't do that to everybody. So where's the logic?
It's a lot of the evidence comes from pharmaceutical companies. So it's so biased, because the first thing we do when we diagnose somebody is slap a drug on them and say, well, there you go, you need to be on that for life now. And so it just the whole, I probably shouldn't be doing that. As a mental health professional, I should probably be like, take your medication. And you know, I'm not saying that all of the mental health systems are completely wrong. But for me, it's just, they don't have the full picture and they're very narrow-minded. And so when we do get a lot of people that come through with like really religious and spiritual experiences. And it's always taken as cold, hard fact that these experiences are psychosis. They're detached from reality. Well, hang on a minute. Are we just going to say that? Are we just going to completely dictate that and then not even run with the idea that maybe this is a profound religious experience that this person has gone through? And, you know, there's tribes that recognize that stuff happens when you're going through a spiritual initiation and things like that. But we just completely discount that in the Western world. And I do think it's detrimental to so many people's mental health.
And I think the big thing is like, I have a friend at the moment who's actually going through therapy, like Western culture's idea of therapy, right? And they sent me a message a few weeks ago and was like, oh, hey, I have to do this 8-week program, retraining my thoughts and retrain. And the way that they were describing this to me, I was like, this is NLP. And and they're like, oh, no, it's a different thing. Like, you know, my psychiatrist is telling me this, and this, and my psychologist is telling me this, and this. And I'm like, nah, mate, that's woo-woo. Like, I'm like, they can put whatever label they want on it, but they're incorporating spirituality here. They're incorporating theta and NLP into one thing, and it's energy. And he's just like, okay.
Yeah. And it is this element of like, you know, was us in the and again, quote unquote, in the spiritual community, you know, those of us that are open to, you know, higher vibrational energies and looking at the world in a different way, we are open to the fact that science is a part of spirituality. We know that it is. We know that it's not one or the other. Science is the explanation, maybe, but spirituality is the beingness of it. Whereas I find that a lot of people that are very 3D, very based in like, oh, it has to be evidence-based, it has to be this, it has to be that. It has to be science, and then science can explain away the quote-unquote spirituality elements of it. And for me, that's you are denying a whole element of somebody's beingness when you decide that, well, no, it's only this physical stuff. And so you're completely right in what you're saying. They are starting to bring in some of these spirituality type things. So meditation and mindfulness is now being used, but they're only getting a tiny element of it. They're not getting the spiritual element of it moving through. They're taking, quote unquote, spiritual concepts and these things that are quite high vibrational, and then they're making them really 3D. They are completely disconnecting them from the heart of the spirituality stuff. And then the added stuff on top of that is that they will then run research based on this cold element of what they believe these spiritual concepts to be, and then say, oh, it's not working. Well, it's not working because that's not true meditation and that's not true NLP or whatever. It's not working because you've removed the heart and soul from this thing. That's why it's not working. So that's the thing that bugs me about that stuff, that they'll nick that stuff. They'll nick it and they'll be like, yeah, no, we're using it, we're incorporating it. But then they'll strangle the living daylights out of it and be like, no, it doesn't work, see?
Yeah, exactly. Or they'll try and put their own spin on it, like, oh, no, it's not the same. This is a different thing completely. And we have done countless years of research in this medical research. Yeah. And
when it works, that's when it works. It's got nothing to do with the spiritual elements. Because, you know, we couldn't possibly have their scientific methods threatened by the fact that there could be a higher power involved.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. It's a sticky web, really.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
But I mean, going into limiting beliefs and reprogramming and all of those concepts, I mean, with you stepping in and having faith and having trust, you would have had to do that to be a trance channel, yes?
Yes. Really big way.
So, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced stigma around being a trance channel. How have you overcome your own limiting beliefs and your own self-doubts in that aspect?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the initial stigma was from myself. I was telling myself, "This is just you're just making it up. No, this isn't real." And I needed a lot of kinds of guidance and courage, and a lot of just putting myself out there and just being like, "Okay, well, you know, we're just going to try and figure it out one step at a time." And just really being patient and having a lot of self-love for myself and putting myself in situations that opened me up, made me vulnerable, allowed me to practice with people in a way that felt safe. So I had a community of people that I felt quite safe around, that I was offering free sessions to. And obviously the feedback from them, knowing that obviously the Galayla Collective were giving them information that I would never have known. And so that was huge confirmation for me. There was lots of gorgeous times where I would... Again, you gotta really bridge those limiting beliefs that tell you, no, you can't try this stuff, and you just gotta say, well, I'm just gonna do it anyway, because imagine if it was real, like let's just entertain it for a little bit, and then that's when the magic steps in and you get those confirmations that help strengthen that trust. So that was stigma around my own ability. I no longer have that issue. Don't get me wrong, there are still times when I worry about how much information I'm able to gather. Sometimes that kicks in and I've just got to let go of the human element when I'm in that stuff. Like, and a lot of the processes that I teach really help with that stuff as well. I have a system that I use now that taps into the physical, emotional, mental and spiritual bodies to really assist me with that stuff. So it's not just the limiting beliefs I'm addressing, it's the whole being. Mm-hmm. But then there has been external kinds of stigma as well. Not as much as I was expecting, to be honest with you. And I don't know whether that's because I was able to hold the frequency of this is exactly what I'm doing and this is who I am, and if people don't like it, they can bugger off, quite frankly. Yeah. But you do get the odd like troll on like, you know, on like on videos. And I once had this man, I was posting on to be on a podcast, and I had this man just randomly message me, and he was like, first said he was interested in having me on his podcast, and then he messaged me saying, actually, I've just tapped into my guides and they told me that you're a fraud and that you're not actually doing this. And he got really, really nasty and was really like, and I was so taken aback by it. And I was like, oh my days. And there was an element of me that felt really small and was like, oh gosh. But then it's almost like the higher self kicks in and is like, what a gorgeous experience this is. It then became a learning opportunity for me to share this with others and say, what this man is actually doing. So when we first step into trance channeling, channeling of any kind, and any kind of spiritual ability, your first thing is to doubt yourself. Your first thing is to say, am I just making this up? Like, I don't want to be deceiving people. And he's actually really taken that and run with it and was trying to really tap into that element of me. Fortunately, I was strong enough in my own kind of conviction at that point that I knew that wasn't what I was doing at all. I knew I was really quite confident in my ability to be able to do this, and I know my own person. I know I would never willingly deceive anybody in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
And so it then became like this learning experience of like that. I think that's what drove me more than wanting to handle that for me. It became more of this is what other people need to recognize that they might be exposed to when they start stepping into this stuff. This is just him reflecting back his fear and reflecting back his limitations and reflecting back, you know, his kind of toxicity, basically, just because he doesn't believe in what he's doing. You know, he was apparently a medium, but he doesn't believe it's possible for somebody to be a trance channel. So it shows a lot about where he was at. And it became this kind of learning experience for others to say, watch out for people like this. They are going to really tap into that fear-based stuff that's going to come up for you when you're starting out. Don't let them get to you. It's just their projection. And it was that kind of gave me the strength and conviction to be like, I don't have to worry about people like that. They are just going to show up. And they're just here to help me step into my power. And it was actually quite a lovely gift. I had a lot of people messaging me after that and being like, you handled that really well. And I was like, oh, thanks. So yeah, the stigmas, it's not ideal. And I've had a lot of like people that I know, people that I love that have kind of reflected back to me like, that's so weird. And it's almost like a little opportunity for you to recognize how much you've grown, because I don't allow it to let me waver on who I am and what I do anymore. And it's almost like I can see why you would think that was weird. And it's like a little element of joy of like, but I don't think it's weird anymore. How amazing is that?
Yeah. It's just stepping into that confidence and knowing within yourself that what you're doing is authentic and genuine and meaningful, that someone else's opinion is not going to shake that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I completely relate to the guy calling you a fraud. I had this similar situation. Like, I do online tarot readings and stuff like that, and people were like, you're taking advantage of vulnerable people and, you know, this, that, and the other. And I was like, who hurt you? Like, like, what psychic did you meet at what carnival that just, you know, like, hurt you as a child? Because...
Yeah. That's all that is. It's just a projection, isn't it? Of their own fear, their own real, and it is that real fear-based energy that they're just throwing back at you, and they're wanting you to feel the same. They're wanting you to feel that fear and to be put off. But, you know, hats off to you for not being put off, babe. Like, you know, you're here to do a job, and, you know, you're not going to let people put you off. So
yeah, no, I was like, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? He didn't respond. But it is what it is. People,
I love that.
People, someone else said to me, it was like, oh, you know, that's when, you know, like, you're doing good, is when someone tries to tear you down. And I was like, oh, that's
so
nice.
True. It is so true, because you triggered something within them, haven't you? Like, your radiance, like, so this is the other thing that people need to recognize as well. When you are stepping into your power, you are going to be radiating at a gorgeous frequency. And that frequency in and of itself, as you step into your light, is actually quite purifying. And so anybody that isn't on that frequency, anybody that is quite removed from their own power, is going to find your light really triggering. It's going to purify their own energy in a big way. And it's going to really draw attention to all of the parts of them where they're not shining in their own light. And when we're very attached to our human, we will attempt to take that other person down, rather than recognizing, oh, well, I have that light within me too. And so I don't need to be threatened by this person. I just need to tap into my own light. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people go into self-sabotage and nasty mode.
Yeah. No, I get that. And it's unfortunate, because we do all have this uniqueness and this, I don't want to be cliche and be like, we're all special in our own way. But, you know.
But we kind of are, you know.
Exactly. We've all got something to offer.
Yeah.
And just because someone else does something a certain way or offers something and it is of value does not mean what you have to offer is of any less value. So
exactly,
it shouldn't be considered a threat. If anything, it should be motivation to be like, yes,
yeah, they're
doing more, I can do more. You know, maybe what can I learn from them, instead of how can I tear them down and make myself feel better.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just a reflection of what's happening in their internal worlds. They'll be tearing themselves down, and so they're just, you know, projecting that outwards as well, aren't they? So
yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. It everything is a reflection, and if someone is wanting to tear you down, it's simply because of fears and self-sabotage tendencies that they have towards themselves.
Yeah. And if you can have love and compassion for that person, as ironically as that sounds, is what you diffuse that situation in a huge way. You take the charge out of you being triggered. You meeting that fear with your fear. That's just going to pull you into a whole world of pain that you don't need to be in. And if you can approach that situation with boundaries, obviously, and say, you know, this is not what's happening, or you could just choose not to engage with it completely, but you can still send love and compassion to that person, and have love and compassion for the element of you that is being reflected back to you that's still feeling fear, that's still feeling as though it's not possible. Because, you know, It's an external projection of what's happening for them. It's showing up in your reality because there is somewhere in your psyche, you know, it's being called in for a reason. Your vibration has attracted that in for a reason. And so what gift is there to be learned here? And it could just be simply, oh, that used to be an old belief of mine and now I don't resonate with that. How gorgeous is that? And so you make peace inside yourself, and that stuff really quickly falls away.
Yeah, absolutely. So with trance channeling and starting off the way that you did, was the Galayla Collective the first beings that you had communication with, or did you kind of fall into a pact with them a little bit later on?
So it's actually really interesting that you should say that. So I feel as though I need to give a bit of a backstory. So I actually died when I was a baby. When I was about 3 months old, I passed away. In the bath, I had drowned after having a seizure, and I was temporarily deceased for a little bit. And I was obviously able to be brought back to life. I'm not just like a living ghost. But apparently what that did, because I was exposed to the energy world, if you like, so early on, so because I left my body so early on, before I was able to kind of form language, I saw energy differently. And so it was almost like I was connected to the spirit world in a way that most children normally aren't. But I never knew this. I just so I was always able to understand energy in quite a unique way. And I know that the Galayla Collective were around at that point. Obviously, time works differently in the different dimensions. Time only ever exists in the 3D world. So it's quite complicated to know whether that was kind of a predestined thing or whether as my life kind of progressed, they then went to that point. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. But so basically, I've always had a kind of receptiveness to energy in a way that I never really understood until I started channeling the Galayla Collective, and they just told me that. But I spontaneously opened up to my ability to just channel, not trance channel, but just opened up my channel when I was meditating, when I was about 21 or 22, so about 6 or 7 years ago. And I didn't know I was channeling at the time. It took somebody else to tell me that's what you're doing. And then I found out that was my guardian angel. She was called Arabella. So she was technically the first entity I ever had any kind of interaction with. And she was just a being of just pure love. She just filled me up to the brim of just pure. And at that moment in time in my life, I really didn't love myself at all. I mean, I don't think any of us do at that age, do we? But I was just like, yeah, it was a dark time in my life. And so she just brought this reconnection to the fact that I was worthy of love. Like it was a huge, huge thing. She really opened up my heart space in a big way. But I didn't actually start channeling the Galayla Collective until I started my business. It was after I started my business that they came through. They tell me that they've been with me from day dot, like I said, but they didn't communicate with me directly until I think it was January of this year, to be honest with you, that They came through. So it hasn't even been a year yet. I mean, obviously, I'm used to their energy because I know that I've been connected with them for a long time, but I didn't start really trance channeling them until this year.
Wow, that's, like you said, I mean, time is a 3D concept, but it's amazing to think that they've been there that whole time, and then the second that you step into trusting and doing what you need to do, they're like, she's got this, now's the time, guys.
Yep, definitely. And I would say as well, on top of that, I didn't start learning to actively manage my energy until about 1.5 years ago. And it was almost like that became the element of like, I was taking responsibility for me. I was taking responsibility to manage my part of the deal. And it was almost like they were like, okay, now she's ready.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing is like, if you're not ready for it, they're not going to like burden you with that.
Yeah.
Because obviously, especially if you're not able to take care of yourself physically in a great way, or control your energy and regulate yourself, they're not going to add extra pressure to that if you can't handle it.
Exactly.
I think that just goes to show, like, especially what kind of beings they are in particular, because I know some people can be a little bit standoffish, being like, oh, do you really know what you're channeling? Like, is this really a positive thing? Is this manipulating you? Is this X, Y, or Z? and it can be a little bit overwhelming, but it just goes to show if it was something negative, or they were trying to manipulate, or they did have an agenda to humanity, or even just you in general, they would have come out a long time ago.
Exactly. And there was so many times when my energy wasn't stable as I was learning to channel. It's kind of natural as you move into this stuff. I'm sure you kind of understand yourself as you move through this stuff. Your highest lessons and learnings come from almost like your darkest moment. And there was plenty of times where your quote unquote dark energy, if they were these dark beings, they could have really got in and, created some havoc, because I was wide open for a long time. I was very vulnerable in my energy for a long, long time. But they were actually quite protective of me around that time, like even though I wasn't trance channeling. So I know that like my guardian angel, I don't speak directly to my guardian angel anymore, but I know that she's kind of an element of all of this juicy, high vibrational energy that stepped in. I know that even when I wasn't able to hold my own energy and protect my own energy, that's what they were doing. They would just wrap me in bubbles of light, and I would see it in my dreams, I would see it in meditations, and I would just know that they're holding me through all of this stuff. And so it does make me laugh actually when I hear people talking, do you know what you're trying? Oh my, and there's all that fear-based stuff that comes up. And I have so much compassion for those people, because they're so removed from their own power, and they're so removed from what's capable for them. And it's almost like they have this need to put that on you because they want to keep you safe as well. And it comes from a place of love, but I mean, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes from a place of like, I don't really like what you're doing, so I'm just going to tear you down. But for the most part, it does come from a place of love. And I just think, like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I've been doing this stuff for a long, long time. Like, a long, at this point, I think it's over half my life that I've been doing this stuff for. So I would know if it was something dark that was trying to tear down my life. I would know. Like, ever since I have been working with these energies directly, incredible things have been happening in my life, like absolutely incredible things. And I don't need that external validation for me to know that it's good. But for those other people that are a little bit like, well, how do you know? Well, the external world kind of shows me that they're benefiting me. So, but yeah, so it does make me laugh.
It's like people, how do you know this is what you're meant to do? Like, how do you know you like to do X, Y, and Z? How do you know you just fucking know, right? It's in your being. You feel this.
I mean, and if you want to put a label on it, it's clear cognizance, it's clear knowing, it's psychic knowing. And many of us are tapped into this stuff. We call this intuition, don't we? But you can't describe what clear cognizance is. You just can't. It's a feeling state of just knowingness, and there's no other way to describe it other than if you just know. And there's no science to describe it either, because spirituality cannot all be described with science. We don't have any kind of language to describe what the fundamental basics of raw energy and our connection to it is. We don't have any science to explain that. I just know. But yeah, but that for 3D people, that's not. It's not a valid. It's not a valid answer, is it? But it's kind of like you're never going to get it. So it's like until you step into this stuff and you experience it for yourself, you won't know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's the thing about 3D. It's like you constantly need that explanation. You need to show you're working, prove that you can do it.
Like your maths homework, like show me you didn't use a calculator.
Yeah. Exactly. Did you carry the 2? Like. It's the same thing. You just need that proof. You need that evidence. And it's just something you're not always going to get in this field. It's having that trust, having that faith, having that inner knowing, and having that knowledge and, again, trust in your intuition to know that you can trust your judgment. You can trust what's coming through. And if it was something with an agenda or that was negative, your life wouldn't be the way that it is now.
Yeah, it really is about that element of like, many people believe that the spiritual like kind of overlords us, that it's more powerful than us, but you literally are the spiritual. Like, it's not something separate from you, it is you. And so this idea, I think that's where the fear comes from for a lot of people, that they worry, oh, well, you don't understand it. No, I do understand it, and that's exactly why I'm doing it. If I didn't understand it, I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, that's the point.
Yeah.
that's something that you've got to really, when you're stepping into this stuff, something you got to be really on the lookout for, of like always learn to trust your own judgment and your own sense of what feels good and what doesn't, because the external world will keep reflecting back to you all elements of where you're removed from your power. So learning to trust your own judgment really is key. That's key to all of it.
Yeah. And I love how it's always the people too that they've never tried the channel, they've never done anything, but they're the ones that they're going to give advice on it, you know? It's like, oh, well.
And they always got the biggest opinions.
It's like, shut up. Yeah. It's like, what do you know? You know nothing. Shut up. So I guess too, in your experience working with the Galayla Collective, how has trance channeling assisted your clients, assisted society, assisted your progress with collective consciousness?
I love that question. That's so juicy. So obviously with it being, it's kind of twofold in that they help energetically. So obviously what I'm doing is literally bridging a gap from interdimensional beings, interdimensional vibrations that are really, really high vibrationally. I'm bridging a gap into the physical world for that energy to then be transmitted out. So what they show me is that 80% of the energy that they are transmitting, we can't see and we don't understand. So 80% of the energy that they are transmitting is just pure goodness that is just here to just spread goodness and love and light and joy and all of that juiciness that really helps to up-level all of the energies around it that it interacts with. So it's that kind of, that real spiritual element that is really driving through. But obviously the 20% that is their language and their words and the wisdom that they're actually carrying through is helping people to literally step into the power of creating their reality. It's helping people to recognize that they are elements of source energy and that they are so much more powerful than they could ever realize. I've had a homeless person manifest a home in 10 minutes. I've had multiple people in business channeling gorgeous next level courses that are here to literally assist the ascension of humanity. I've had people stepping into just making loads and loads of money, like loads of money. People think that spirituality has to be removed from physical resources. No, we are here to be abundant beings and money is just energy in physical form. So that's a huge thing that they've helped clients with. It's one of the main things that they help clients with is bringing more resources, bringing in more abundance, bringing in more opportunities. The main thing though is that they reconnect them to their power and they help them to, I mean, we've all heard this idea that we are the creators of our reality and our internal world creates our external world, but most of us still don't believe it. And they're really helping people to bridge that gap from their multidimensional self, the piece of you that knows it, and your human self, the piece of you that is removed from it. And they're really helping you to integrate the balance of both of those so that you actually start to recognize, oh my God, I literally am the creator of my reality. I'm watching it rearrange as I'm rearranging my internal world. And then they get so much more ability to be able to consciously shape their external reality. So it's changed things on a huge level. And it's been absolutely amazing for my own life as well. The things it's brought in for me have been unreal. I've been able to leave my job. My relationship has turned into something I never even dreamed possible. Just absolutely amazing, incredible things that before this level of information and wisdom was coming through, I was completely removed from, and people in my field were completely removed from. And now I'm able to spread that information and be like, here you go. This is what's possible for all of us. Let's do it.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, that's amazing. What came up for me then was I've noticed a lot of people, it's not so much that they not necessarily believe that their internal reality creates their external, but they don't know how to shift the internal.
Yes.
And they struggle to shift the internal to create the external. And that's what a lot of people I've found struggle with, because it's like, okay, great. I know that does that, but how do I do that? What's the instruction? What's the method here? And you're just like, guys, oh.
And that is literally, I'm so glad that you hit the nail on the head with that one, to be fair, because that is literally what we do. We have this really powerful process that teaches you to, and we work with the physical, emotional, mental and spiritual bodies to really help you on a day-to-day basis keep yourself in alignment internally with what it is that you're wanting to create externally. And there's all kinds of things that get in the way around that. Your human is going to come in to sabotage you on a daily basis. Like, this is why people find it so difficult to try and in the old paradigm, in the old way of doing things, we would call the human the ego, and we would try to get rid of it completely. And we kind of lost the functionality of the ego. We lost the reason why it's here. And so we've completely disempowered ourselves because we're not utilizing the tools we've got. We're trying to get rid of them. We don't understand the mechanics of how we work as human beings. We don't understand why the internal reflects the external. And that's what we teach you. We teach you all of that stuff so that you can really start to understand why you do that, how you do that, put it into practice, and then strengthen that trust muscle so that you continue to do that. And it gets more powerful and more powerful. The more you see it happening, the more you see the evidence, the more you learn to trust it, the more you embody that power, and it gets easier and easier to do. I'm getting all like excited now.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh gosh. I mean, I know so many people who struggle with that concept, and they're like, they look at you and it's like, okay, so what do I do? And I'm like, I don't know, dude.
And do you know what? Like, to be fair, that's the instant place that they're going wrong. They're looking outside of themselves for that validation and for that. And actually what we teach you to do is bring that power all the way back home and make sure that you are looking to yourself for that element of validation. And it's almost like the oxymoron or the kind of paradox of you come to us for help. So technically that's you looking outside of yourself, but we will tell you we are an element of your multidimensional self, and we are going to keep redirecting you home. We're going to keep showing you how to go home rather than looking outside of yourself and disempowering yourself. Like, that is literally what we do. We teach you to go within.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that so much. The other thing I wanted to ask before we get ready to wrap things up was, what is the most powerful piece of advice that you have ever been given that you would like to share with everybody?
Oh, I love that question. So, I've been thinking about this, and I think the most important bit for me is that, and this is advice from the Galayla Collective, so just to be clear, so it's not like human advice, this is going to be a little bit woo-woo, but your external world reflects your internal reality. Like, your internal reality is what is creating your external world. Most people are looking for validation outside of themselves in order to make the internal changes. So you're looking for that power outside of yourself. Most people are looking for validation in the external world that they are the creators of their reality. But it won't show up in your external reality until you start believing it from within. So the most important piece of information that I have been given that has really shifted my life is that your ability to consciously create your reality will not come online until you believe it is possible. That's your job. You have to shift into that belief before you can really start playing with the magic of everything that you are. And that's when life really starts. Like, as far as I'm concerned, people that don't believe that they are the creators of their reality aren't living. You are in default mode and you may as well be asleep. Because the magic doesn't happen until you really start to tap into this power and really start to play with what it is to be human. So the main piece of advice is shift your internal world so that you can shift your external world.
Yeah. Get off autopilot.
Yes. Exactly. Stop creating by default and start creating by desire.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That was, that was, wait, hang on. I'll channel Daniel for this. That was so juicy.
So funny, you know, he called me out for using that word the other day, and then I couldn't stop using it. It was like every 2 minutes, it would just fall out my face. He was like, "You're doing it on purpose now."
Oh, I know. That's why I mentioned it. Oh, funny. Well, if everyone wants the inside method and instructions on how to do so in their lives, Leanne, where can they find you and how can they work with you?
So you can find me over on Instagram at Sacred Starseed Awakening. I am in the middle of building a website as well. So that's thegalaylacollective.com. When that's live, I will let you know. So how you can work with me, you can work with just little old me. in a one-on-one session where we just do some kind of blended channeling. We do some card readings and I can kind of help you to get some clarity on your next steps. Or you can have a one-to-one with the Galayla Collective themselves, and we introduce you all to the method that we use called 6-dimensional manifestation. That's what we've coined our program. And you can either do that in a 3-month program that is very intensive and will take you on a completely life-changing, transformational journey. But we've also got a group program version of that as well. I'm running our first group program on October the 8th, and I am so excited for that. But I'll be running that probably in 3 monthly sessions. Increments, there you go.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, Leanne, and thank you so much for just being you and telling us a little bit about the girl behind the Galayla Collective. You know, the girl.
Thanks, babe. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for chatting to little old me and, you know, giving me the spotlight.
Oh, anytime.
Well, this is your Earthside Spirit Guide signing off for the week. If you'd like to know more about how you can work with me, you can follow me on Instagram at l.embers or visit my website lembers.com.